Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for having me here. The last time I was here was a few months ago for the Cirque du Soleil. So last night I tried to explain to my 9-year-old that I was going to go to the Royal Albert Hall and speak to all of you. And for the life of me, I could not convince her that what possible skill could I have that people would want to see me perform at the Royal Albert Hall. That criticism notwithstanding, I'm hoping in the next 15 minutes I can share with you why I passionately believe that the internet provides an opportunity which is unparalleled and perhaps can be likened to the last industrial revolution. If you think about it, 200 years ago, Britain was had this huge thing happen called the Industrial Revolution, where we went from a local to a national economy. We went from from a rural to an urban society. We went from small-scale production to mass production. And I think the internet today offers a very similar opportunity for us to go from a national economy to a global economy, perhaps from what we call today as urban society to a global society, and even specializing in terms of production in various countries around the world, which we're beginning to see. The internet brought with it not just the fact that there was a set of normal protocols and open source code, etc., which people could use. It actually brought with itself a lot of choice and competition. From my perspective, I've had the opportunity in Europe to look at tremendous amounts of businesses which have used the internet opportunity to transform themselves. If you think about the internet, actually, I used to be a fund manager or equity analyst many years ago when the internet first came about in 1999. And people sort of thought that was a euphoric event. It was investor folly. It was something that was going to go away. If you go back and think then, the first phase of the internet was all about information. The first reaction people had was, hey, I can go to the internet and I can find whatever I want to find. That soon gave way to what I call the wave of distribution and communication, when you could see people like Amazon, like eBay, like Skype, like Expedia were born. This was a time when smart business people like yourself sat and said, how can I leverage the fact that there are 350 million people connected together on this common sort of protocol, common community? How can I find a way of taking existing business and turn it on its head and find consumers who want to participate with me in this phenomenon? What is fascinating is now, I think 2000, where we have probably about 1 billion people connected around the world, people are beginning to do different things on the internet. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of things like MySpace or YouTube, etc. These are phenomena where two people have gone into a garage and built businesses on the back of the fact that 1 billion people globally are connected. Let's try and see how that has brought about change for us in various industries and various sectors. The funny problem is whenever I go make a presentation, I can't seem to figure out the technology, and I claim I work for a technology company. So I'm clicking away at this thing. There we go. If you go to dictionary.com and type the word established, you'll find established means secure, means something that is there with a sense of permanence. I actually believe there is pretty much no industry or no business which can claim to be established over the next 5 to 10 years, given the tremendous opportunity that the internet provides us. If you look what happened, if you look at the auction business, it was eBay which came about and turned the auction model upside down. Today eBay is one of the largest auction businesses in the world, and people thought it was just a business which was going to be used to take stuff in my attic or your loft, etc., and be able to sell it. Actually today they're one of the largest sellers of goods and services on the web. I think $60 billion was what I heard last, was the total amount of gross market value they were going to be able to sell. If you look at what happened to the travel business, things like lastminute.com, like Expedia, have come about and turned that business upside down because of the fact that internet has allowed them tremendous amounts of distribution and ability to access consumers on the web. Take a look at the book-selling business. There is no reason in the world that Barnes & Nobles, W.H. Smith, etc. should not have been the next Amazon. And what is it that Amazon found that was going to turn around the whole industry on its head? Amazon today is the world's largest bookseller. It's probably worth more booksellers around the world combined. So The internet has provided an opportunity where traditional established businesses have been loath or have been slow to go out there and grab that opportunity, and a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses have stepped up to the plate and used that opportunity to build large businesses, whether it's Wikipedia, which took on Encyclopedia Britannica by using the wisdom of the crowds. And I believe we're just at the beginning of this revolution. I think in the next 10 years, we're likely to see a lot more people go out. This is a picture of our founders in there, which doesn't quite look like the garage they were in, but it's a big garage. It's in the US, so they have bigger garages. And this is a picture of those two guys. What is fascinating is a lot of the internet startups have come about by two founders, whether it's MySpace, Skype, Bebo, Facebook. There must be something about two people getting together. But if you look at this, this is what the internet provides as an opportunity. You can go out there, take a business model, look at it, take a look at what the opportunity it provides, and I'm going to give you a little primer on how to go out and start your own business in a garage if you wait for another 5 minutes. Right. Now, often I get asked, well, this is fantastic. You know, in 1999, the NASDAQ was at 5,000. The internet crashed, and life went back to normal. So this is yet another wave. This is going to go away. What is fascinating is today, if you add the market value of the top 5 internet companies in the world, it actually exceeds the entire value of the internet market in 1999. So what is fascinating is, I think there are 3 fundamental drivers which exist in the industries today, which are going to make sure that this is not a passing fancy. This is not something that is going away. The number one opportunity is the opportunity of the reducing cost of technology. For those of you who are technologists, there's a law which we all know called Moore's law, which talks about somebody moved faster. I didn't know anything. Better leave it over there. No. So there's a law which basically says that storage doubles every 13 months. So the cost of storage continues to double every 13 months. To give you more of a layman example, a lot of you are familiar with the iPod. Today's iPod carries about 20,000 songs. It's not infeasible that in 5 years from now, an iPod will be able to carry approximately 1 year's worth of video without having to repeat itself. Or in 8 years, you'll have an iPod which can carry the entire commercial music ever created in the world, or perhaps in 10 years, the entire commercial video ever created in the world. Now just think about the business opportunity that it provides. Perhaps I will not need a broadband connection to download videos and music. I can go to Africa and sell these iPods for $249, and people can just unlock the content of the iPod. So there's a tremendous revolution going on in storage, which I think is going to create an opportunity from a business model perspective. You think about access. I can't do this in this room because I won't be able to see you guys, but normally I ask the people in the audience, how many of you can live without having broadband access? Most of you, hopefully, will say no. And if I'd asked the question 3 years ago, people would actually say, I can live without it. What is fascinating is that internet access has reached a tipping point beyond which it's gone from being a nice-to-have to a must-have. It's almost like your mobile phone. So what's fascinating is there are 250 million people who are accessing the internet through broadband. The expectation is by the end of this decade, that number will go to 413 million. Of course, the broadband wars in the UK have precipitated that change for us. Highly likely, we will reach that number of over 70% of the population in the UK accessing the internet by broadband much faster than is anticipated for the rest of the world. So clearly, when people have the ability to access the internet in a broadband fashion, that becomes their first port of call. If I was to go around the audience and ask you questions about finding some piece of information or doing some research on some product, our first port of call eventually is beginning to become the internet. And the reason that is so is because we all have sort of learned that it's much easier, quicker, faster to find this information, and now I have the ability to access this information in a very, very, very quick fashion. And last but not the least, the tools of production have been democratized. I can buy myself a camcorder for the cost today of what it used to cost to buy semi-professional equipment to create videos. Or perhaps most of our mobile phones have the capability of taking pictures which are better quality than most cameras 10, 15 years ago. So what's beginning to happen is that consumers themselves are beginning to create content, and that again creates a huge draw for them to go access the internet. I'm saying there's 1 billion people out there connected to the internet who are providing us this opportunity to address these people. What is fascinating is, whilst 1 billion people is only 16% of the world's population, it's 89% of the world's GDP. So if you're in business, Never before have 1 billion people been available for all of us to target as businesses, as potential consumers for our goods and services. So, as I promised, here's my primer. I think there are 5 opportunities out there for most businesses, large and small, which will allow us to take advantage or leverage what the internet has to offer. Let's start with the first one, unlimited shelf space. There's a fascinating example of 2 companies in the UK, one called udo.com, which sells greeting cards. They saw an opportunity. They tried to sell greeting cards to Boots and the other stores, and they realized that most of the stores were not willing to hold on to the entire inventory they had to sell. So guess what? They work out of Coventry. They decided to set up a website, and today they have limitless inventory because they can offer almost every type of card. You can even customize your card, and they'll print it for you and just for you and send it over to your house. Another example is of a company which is called sillyjokes.com. They sell 3,000 products off the internet. They have 800 square feet of physical space, and the revenue growth is 100% every year. Once again, what they've managed to do, the internet allows you to stock stuff on the web and showcase it to consumers for a little margin of the cost it would take to have it in a full score. For those of you who are not small business inclined, let's try this differently. Walmart, which I'm sure all of you have heard about, the large American convenience store. I don't know what they call supermarket. They call themselves nowadays, not convenience store, although they claim it's convenient. If you look at Walmart, it carries 1,000 new CDs every year. Actually, 35,000 new CDs are produced every year of music. So Walmart actually sits on behalf of us, the consumer, and chooses out of the 35,000 which 1,000 are customers likely to enjoy listening to. And typically, if their buyers get it wrong, if you go to the Walmart stores in the US, you'll find a big rack in the back, big bin, where everything's selling for $1. That's because somebody made a mistake and thought we were going to like Madonna, or, well, sorry, whatever. So what's fascinating is if you go to Amazon.com or Blockbuster.com, they sell the entire 35,000. And this is another example of the internet allowing you unlimited shelf space and perhaps an opportunity to create products and have products stocked for what I call, the next example, is making unviable products viable, or the ability to target the long tail. There's a magazine called Wired magazine, and the editor called Chris Anderson has written a fascinating book called The Long Tail, which basically suggests that because of the reduction of cost of distribution and production, you can now create products for niche markets which we were not able to create before. It's almost like saying, if I had a small store in a village and I wanted to sell a very unique product, a very exciting form of chocolate, or if I had a book in Peruvian orchids, my potential customer base was limited to my village. Now, the fact that I can sell a book in Peruvian orchids on the internet allows anybody who's interested in Peruvian orchids around the world to be able to go out and find that and be able to buy it from me. So it basically expands your potential market segment and allows niche products to become viable. Let's take another opportunity. The third opportunity is the falling cost of technology. Today, it is totally possible that any small business or large business can acquire technology as a variable cost. Traditionally, technology has been a fixed cost to a business, whether it's through Google, we have a set of applications where people get a variable cost, or it's through your mobile phone, or it's through other companies called Salesforce.com, whether it's from Microsoft called Microsoft Live. You can actually go out there and acquire technological products which you can use on a variable cost basis as opposed to a fixed cost basis, which basically allows lots of businesses to get started without having to create huge fixed costs at the beginning. Another opportunity which I think is one of the most fascinating opportunities is the ability to acquire customers on the internet. Clearly, Andrew talked about the opportunity for internet search advertising. I'm not here to talk about internet search advertising, but there's an example of a company called tradeappliances.co.uk. They started in 1988 with one store. They started another store, but they realized that for them to go national, it was probably better to do this by the internet as opposed to start more physical stores. Today, they get 80% of their sales from the internet. And the way they acquire the customers, they actually go out and find customers online who are looking for this either through search or by doing online banners or by doing online advertisements. And it's fascinating how they're able to acquire customers on a national scale using the internet without having to set up physical goods and services. Another example in the UK is a company called Glasses Direct, started by a 23-year-old in 2004. he realized that he didn't want to go out and spend 150 pounds at our local optician because he felt that it was too high a price. He set up an internet business from his house. He sold 3,000 pairs of glasses in the first 4 months. In 2005, he sold 16,000. 2006, he sold 60,000. He sells them all for $28.50. And I think he's got about 20 employees now in 2 locations where he physically stores. He does not have a physical storefront for selling this stuff anymore. So clearly, there is an opportunity out there to go out and acquire customers using what I call the networked community of 1 billion people, or perhaps in the UK, more like 40 million people. Last but not the least, the opportunity for most businesses today is that the internet allows for parity of information. Today, I can have the same information as an individual as large businesses used to have. Whether I worked in the financial industry 10 years ago, it was impossible to get real-time stock price data because that was only saved for large financial institutions because they could afford it. Today, anybody, you and me, can go to the web and go to about 50 different places where we can have access to that information. And what is fascinating is the parity of information creates even more business opportunities. I'm going to give you an example of how in the minds of most established businesses, they actually believe they have the internet opportunity understood. They have a fascinating internet strategy. So 2 years ago when I bought my house in the UK, my dishwasher went bust after the first 3 months. And my wife told me I need to go find a new dishwasher. Now, being lazy and looking for efficiency, I didn't want to have somebody redesign my kitchen. So I said, this is very simple. I'll find the same dishwasher. This one will go out. That one will fit in. So I did a little bit of research, found the model number, and I went to the web. I went to the web and I typed the dishwasher company's name, and I went and found, and it's not the name whatever that's on that dishwasher, because I don't want to disparage anybody here, but I went and found the company's website. I was confronted with the picture of the CEO, a handsome young man, which is fascinating, but I was not there to look for his picture. I was there to find myself a dishwasher. So I clicked around and I said, it said the brand values of our company. Fantastic. Now I even know what the brand values of the company are, but I still couldn't find my dishwasher. Then I clicked on the left side and showed me pictures of their production facilities. Very fantastic production facilities. Never knew how dishwashers were made, but now I do. But I still couldn't find my dishwasher. So I kept clicking and looking. Eventually, I found a place that says, choose your country. I said, you could have asked me that before. But anyway, I said the UK. I was on the UK site. Now I have the picture of the managing director of the UK. Fantastic. Another handsome young man. Thankfully, the brand values were the same, so I didn't have to go through the whole education process of the brand values. Eventually, even silly me was able to figure out that there was a place where I could enter a product code. I entered the product code. It showed me the dishwasher, and it even compared the dishwasher with many other dishwashers they had. Well, I kind of knew the one I wanted. And then I clicked and says, proceed. And I clicked on the proceed button, and it says, please call the following retailer to find a dishwasher. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is that has been the approach of many businesses on how they address the internet. They're actually turning customers away. And by the way, this has a negative impact on their brand value because I as a consumer, felt they don't get the internet. And fascinatingly, I went back to Google and did another search on the same product name. This time I went to find an ad because I figured the advertiser must actually be selling me something. And I went to another website which sold dishwashers. In about 3 clicks, I had bought a dishwasher which was going to get delivered to my house. But I actually went to the brand originally which had the dishwasher in my house. And the reason I tell you the story is because a lot of existing businesses, a lot of existing brands on the high street are not the first port of call that all of us go to on the internet. And again, I believe personally that the landscape is still wide open. We as consumers are going out there and developing our preferences. It's almost like when you move to a new city or you move to a new town, first time you spend your time, you go look at what the local grocer is, where the local bakery is, you go check everything out, and then you form your preferences. And I think that is the behavior of consumers on the internet today. I still have not alighted on one particular website I like to buy my tickets. And I think most of us in this room try and plan our travel on the internet. And the similar thing applies to news, it applies to lots of other products and services that we buy. So I think the opportunity is out there, the web is wide open. There is an opportunity to go out there and build yourself a brand on the back of solid customer service, on the back of a great customer experience. And I hope all of you will take something back from today and be able to go back and apply this. Well, thank you very much for listening.
Just a few key questions. How, as a manager, do you keep focus and control of an organisation that's gone from nothing to $10 billion in 10 years?
I think that the key is not to try and control it. One of the things which is fascinating is, as you said earlier in your introduction, Google has had the opportunity to become the consumer's choice as far as internet search and some of the internet products are concerned. I think because of the commitment and the passion of our founders on focusing on the consumer. So if you walk around the company, and I used to work for T-Mobile before this, has nothing to do with the fact that T-Mobile is a sponsor here, but if you walk around the company and you talk to the founders, everything is focused around how does this make it a better consumer experience? How does this make it a better product? And the first focus is always that. The discussion on how do you make money out of this or how does this become commercial is always secondary. And everything I'd learned over my career was you look at the 4 Ps in marketing and you have a pricing strategy and you have a promotion strategy.
Yeah.
There is a single-minded focus on products. And coupled with that, there is a single-minded focus on hiring the best people in the world. And I think so far that formula seems to have worked. But clearly, as the company evolves, we will have different challenges.
Well, it's grown you to that size, and suddenly you find yourself looking at some of the Microsoft, their too dominant criticism. And there's a great quote from your co-founder, Sergey Brin here, which I'd just like you to comment on. Some say Google is God, others say Google is Satan. But if they think Google is too powerful, remember that all it takes is a single click to go to another search engine. People come to Google because they choose to. How do you handle that domination criticism, or do you just ignore it and carry on growing regardless?
You know, what is fascinating is that we don't spend as much time within the business on trying to manage the discussion which happens in the press. And from our perspective, I think the best thing is to continue to work hard on trying to build the best products. And I think you've encapsulated what I would have said. You know, we're one click away from competition. And if consumers don't like the product that we have to offer, they will walk away. Our brand exists because consumers like our products. Our organization exists because we want to build the best product for the consumers. You know, our success is effectively driven by consumers wanting to use our products and liking them. So I think that's where we as a business need to focus, and all this discussion will go away.
All right. Imagine you came here today as a small business owner or a startup. Give us a bit of advice on your expertise. Supposing you wanted to get yourself as a small business well up the search engine preference list for as little money as possible, how would you do it?
I think there's lots. What's fascinating, I actually believe a lot more small businesses will be even more successful on the web than some of the larger businesses, just because of the sort of the ingrained inertia and the fact the internet is still not a big relevant part of their business. Having said that, there are a lot of examples out there of businesses which have managed to work themselves up the consumer preferences. And what it takes is a fantastic website. What it takes is something that consumers like. It takes other websites recommending your website as a good place to do business. If all of those things happen, and you have a unique enough proposition, over time, consumer preferences land you up at the top of the list. There's no one magic formula.
Okay, very good. Last question for today. You were recruited into a really key role. What stands out in your memory from your first meeting with the founders, and how is their style compared to the more formal, traditional leaders like a Jack Welch or a Bill Gates?
Well, what is fascinating, as most of you might know, our business is run by a triumvirate. So we have two founders who started the business when they were 24 and now probably about 32. And our CEO, Eric Schmidt, who's slightly older than them, who's sort of the wise person who teaches us how to go about our business from a professional business perspective. What was fascinating for me was when I was first interviewed at Google, I interviewed with my boss, and then I got a call on Friday afternoon saying, "What are you doing Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock?" I said, "It's the weekend, probably spending time with my family." And they said, "Well, we'd like you to come to the British Museum because the founders are there and they'd like you to be interviewed in the British Museum." So my interview at Google was walking around the British Museum. That was my first interaction with our founders. And the second interaction, which was fascinating, when I joined the company, I went to California and I walked into a meeting. The meeting started and I saw Larry Page, one of our founders, sitting on my left, and I couldn't find the other one. So I sort of said to people, "So where's Sergey?" I said, "Oh, he's lying behind you over there doing a back massage because he just got this thing from Indonesia." and he's having back problems, so he was massaging his back and paying attention, of course, to what is going on. But it's just a very informal attitude, which I've not seen any other company before.
And they haven't changed in that style at all?
No, they haven't changed too much, no.
Very good. All right, well, we'll watch the growth of Google with huge interest over the next 2 years, and I hope we'll have you back here to talk about even bigger success stories in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Nikesh Arora.
Thank you very much.